from Vermont. He's also a member of the Progressive Caucus. Senator, thanks for coming on the show tonight. Why do you think the Republicans finally came around to support part of the president's jobs bill today?
Well, Al, I voted for the bill. It was a good bill, but in truth, it was a pretty modest bill. Unemployment in this country in real terms is 16%. For veterans returning from Iraq and Afghanistan, the number's even higher, which is a real tragedy for people coming from war and then coming into financial distress because they can't support their family. It is a terrible situation, and a lot of our veterans are hurting. This bill is helpful, but in my view, you're not going to solve the unemployment crisis among veterans until we solve it for all Americans.
I agree.
And the point that you just made, the hypocrisy of the Republicans who talk about the need to work together when day after day and on these job bills, one after another, they are sabotaging what the American people overwhelmingly want.
Let me show you something, Senator, to bring home your point. This is Senator McConnell. They don't have to believe Bernie Sanders, Al Sharpton. Watch what Mitch McConnell said himself.
We made it perfectly clear from the beginning that if President Obama proposed policies that were consistent with our principles, we would work with him.
Now, this was last year. We'll compromise if you agree with us. What kind of compromise is that?
Well, the problem, Al, is that on issue after issue, the Republican ideology represents only a tiny fraction of what the American people want. You go out on Main Street and you say to the American people, do you believe we should give tax breaks to billionaires at the same time as we cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid? And people will look at you and say, are you nuts? We don't believe in that. That's what the Republicans are talking about. So when the Democrats in the last couple of weeks come up with programs that say, let's not see hundreds of thousands of teachers lose their jobs, cops, firemen lose their jobs. Let's ask the wealthiest people in this country who are becoming much wealthier while their effective tax rate is the lowest in decades, pay for job creation and deficit reduction. Do you know what people from the Tea Party to progressives say? Yeah, bring it on.
But let me show you something even more, I think, interesting. You're correct, Senator, about the Tea Party members all the way across the board. But let me show you this poll. 68% of Americans say tax millionaires. But 68% of millionaires say tax.
That's right.
In your term, bring it on. Even millionaires are saying bring it on.
Absolutely.
Who are they speaking for with this?
Well, that is a good question, and I think it is a small number of hardcore right-wing extremists and, people like the Koch brothers who ideologically essentially want to undo every single piece of legislation that has benefited working families in the last 80 years. Now, I'll tell you something else, Al. On Tuesday, we saw a tremendous victory for working people in Ohio and elsewhere.
Right.
Republicans are getting nervous. Right-wing extremism is being rejected all across the country. The issue now is, will the Democrats snatch defeat from the jaws of victory? Will the Democrats now in Congress have the guts to stand up on the super committee, for example, and say, nope, we're not going to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. We are going to do what the American people want. We're going to end all these absurd corporate loopholes. We're going to ask billionaires to start paying their fair share of taxes. There is a fair way to move toward deficit reduction. If the Democrats do that and give faith to working class people all over this country that they are on their side, you know what you're going to see in November? You're not just going to see a victory for Obama and Democrats. You're going to see a landslide. But that remains to see.
When you have the wind to your back, you keep going. Don't turn around. Start turning a backwind into a headwind. Senator Sanders, as always, thanks for your time. Ahead,
thank you, Al.
Herman Cain calls Nancy Pelosi a princess on national TV. Smart move, Herman. Wait until you see his response today. And inside the shocking sexual assault story, how one man